Television was in its infancy. Well, I thought it was just another job, so I took it. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine what would happen to us.
During one I Love Lucy episode, something went so wrong that Lucy and Ethel broke character completely. They started laughing for real right in the middle of the scene. Their genuine reaction was so powerful that the producers faced a choice: reshoot the entire sequence or keep this unplanned moment. What happened next shocked the crew. Instead of call and cut, they made a decision that changed television forever. The laughter you see on screen isn't acting. It's pure unrehearsed emotion. And there's a dark reason why they kept it rolling. Before cameras even rolled, Lucy and Desi were earning about $5,000 per week together, which was a solid TV salary in 1951. But they wanted to film the show on 35 Admirer in Hollywood, and that cost far more than CBS planned to spend. So they made an offer that seemed almost foolish at the time. They agreed to take a smaller weekly paycheck as long as they could keep full ownership of the filmed episodes. Executives barely reacted because reruns were considered useless back then. People believed a show could not be shown twice since everyone would have already seen it. So CBS nodded and moved on. No one knew that decision would start a quiet revolution. Because over the next decade, those 179 filmed episodes aired again and again across the country. Then they spread beyond the United States. By the early 1960s, Lucy and Desi sold those same episodes back to CBS for more than $4 million. One pay cut turned into generational wealth. It changed the business in a way no one expected. But the surprises did not stop there. Long before Vivian Vance and William Froehlich stepped into the picture, Lucy wanted two people she already trusted. Bonaderet and Gail Gordon had worked with her on My Favorite Husband from 1948 to 1951. On that show, they played Iris and Rudolph Atterbury, a married couple whose rhythms and timing felt like the perfect seed for Fred and Ethel. Lucy and her writers knew they would fit right into the new series. So, when I Love Lucy went into pre-production in 1951, their names were at the top of her list. Then everything fell apart in the most ordinary way. Contracts. Bonaderet was tied to the George Burns and Gracie Allen show. Gordon was stuck in other radio and television work. Both had to decline even though they wanted to be there. Still, the story took a softer turn years later. Gordon eventually joined Lucy in several later shows, and Bonaderet became a star in her own right when she led Petticoat Junction from 1963 to 1968. The roles slipped away, but their careers did not. Meanwhile, the show Lucy and Desi were building was about to reshape television from the inside. When CBS agreed to launch I Love Lucy in 1951, many people gave Desi credit for inventing the three-camera system. But the real architects were Carl Freund and Al Simon. They had years of studio experience and knew how to take an idea that already existed and push it into something sharp and reliable. They arranged three 35mm Mitchell B&C cameras to run at the same time. One caught a wide shot. The others picked up mediums and close-ups. Performances flowed without stopping. To make this work, Desi leased the worn-out General Service Studios on Las Palmas Avenue. The place was nearly broke, but the owner, Jimmy Nasser, let them rebuild 2 soundstages. They added seating for about 300 people and still met strict fire code rules. By the time the team finished, the setup looked like something new. In 1952, it stunned the industry. A full 20 to 22-minute episode could be captured in roughly 60 minutes of real time. Scenes played in one continuous rhythm. Actors did not lose momentum. Editors gained crystal-clear material. And the show became the most efficient comedy machine in Hollywood. It arrived on American television like a sudden jolt on Monday night, October 15, 1951, right at 9 o'clock in the evening Eastern Time, when families were sitting together and settling in. And within a single year, this little half-hour sitcom was reaching more than half of all homes that even owned a TV. The number sat at a 50.9 Nielsen rating with an average of about 23.3 million viewers during that 1951 to 1952 debut season. Nothing else from that era started like that. Then the show climbed season after season. Across 6 years from 1951 to 1957, it finished as the #1 show in America 4 different times. No scripted show had ever done that before. And when the final original episode aired in May 1957, it left the air still sitting at the very top of the ratings. That kind of exit did not happen again until The Andy Griffith Show ended in 1968 and later Seinfeld in 1998.
For early 50s television, this level of dominance felt unreal. Yet there it was every Monday night. Then came January 19, 1953, and the country saw something strange. Lucille's pregnancy episode beat the President of the United States. That night, the episode called Lucy Goes to the Hospital showed the birth of little Ricky, and it pulled in an estimated 44 million viewers, which was about 71.7% of all television households in the country. The next day, Dwight D. Eisenhower took the oath of office. Yet, his inauguration broadcast drew around 29 million viewers. So almost 15 million more people chose to watch a sitcom mother giving birth in a New York apartment rather than a real general becoming president in Washington. It became the clearest proof that this show held America's attention like nothing else. 2 months later, the show reached a high point that almost looks like a mistake when you read it. On March 8, 1953, a single Monday broadcast of I Love Lucy was watched in 72.6% of all American households with a TV. Nielsen showed roughly 15.8 million TV homes tuned in, which translated to about 40-foot, 431 near 200 viewers for just 1/2 hour of comedy. It meant that if 3 neighbors on a street in early 1953 owned televisions, 2 of them were watching Lucy Ricardo that night. And the same season had many other episodes sitting in the high 60s and low 7s. The show was no longer just entertainment. It had turned into a weekly national gathering with people across the country laughing at the same moment in their living rooms. The numbers from the first full season make it even clearer. During that 1951 to 1952 year, CBS measured an average audience of about 23,363, the 100 people per episode tied to that huge 50.9 household rating. 1 out of every 2 TV homes that had the set turned on was watching the same show. Most Americans were still buying their first television sets during that time. Yet, I Love Lucy already behaved like a permanent national routine. No other brand new series of the early 50s reached anything close to that mix of audience size and share. Trade papers and networks began treating Lucy and Desi as a new kind of television creator, someone who could bring in tens of millions whenever they appeared on screen. Money proved it. By 1953, each original episode was generating around $1 million in advertising revenue. In today's numbers, that is close to $11 million for a single 25-minute comedy episode. Advertisers who sold cigarettes or household goods were happy to pay that because the show could reliably place their message in front of more than 40 million viewers every Monday evening. Lucy's face started showing up everywhere on dolls, jewelry, clothing lines, comic books, and even furniture promotions. It created one of the earliest TV-based merchandising empires. The mix of huge ratings and a growing consumer market turned this show from a sitcom into a blueprint for the modern television franchise that earns most of its money far beyond the broadcast itself. When Lucille Ball learned she was pregnant in mid-1952, the news did not feel joyful in the way she expected. Instead of celebration, she walked straight into fear because CBS executives almost shut down the entire show. Pregnancy on TV was considered risky in that era. People worried it would offend viewers. Some even said families would stop watching, so meetings were held and real tension filled the room while they discussed ending the series. Jesse Oppenheimer refused to let that happen. He pushed and pushed because he believed Lucy's real pregnancy could turn into something fresh for the show. After many arguments, he finally convinced CBS to allow it, but only after they put strict rules in place. Every script had to be checked by a priest, a rabbi, and a Protestant minister. This was the first time any major network let a pregnancy appear on screen, and it changed television in a quiet but powerful way. Time passed, and more rules came. CBS and Philip Morris created a ban so firm that the cast was not allowed to say the word pregnant anywhere, not even during rehearsals. People had to use softer words like expecting or having a baby or the French word ananti. Yet there was a small loophole. Episode titles never appeared on screen. So newspapers published a listing called "Pregnant Women Are Unpredictable" without breaking any rule. That little trick showed how strange broadcast censorship could be even when a show tried to move forward. Then came the night that made history. On January 19, 1953, Lucy gave birth to Desi Arnaz Jr. through a cesarean section. At the same time, an episode called "Lucy Goes to the Hospital" aired across America. Over 44 million people watched it. That was 72% of all households in the country. Movie theaters even projected the episode on their big screens because the moment felt that important. It saved the show, proved audiences wanted real stories, and shaped what television could become. Of course, the show was not perfect. In one nightclub scene, a microphone boom dropped into the frame and stayed there for 53 straight seconds. It hung above the actors like no one noticed it. Early television moved so fast that mistakes slipped through easily. With only one microphone recording everything, the crew focused on sound, not the picture. So, the boom stayed. Fans still pointed it out because it lasted almost a full minute. There were other slip-ups, too. During the pilot, Lucy ran between rooms and a wall that was supposed to stay hidden flashed into view. A camera even rolled into the frame during a phone scene. 3 cameras worked at once in those days, and keeping them all invisible was tough. The pace of filming left no time to fix things like that. So, the moment stayed in the broadcast and became part of the show's long list of small but charming errors. Sometimes those errors were much bigger. In Lucy Learns to Drive, the vintage cars could not run at all, so the crew tied thick black cables to them and dragged them into view. The cables swing around in the shots, clearly visible, especially when the cars moved. High-defin releases make the cables even easier to spot, turning the episode into a favorite for fans who enjoy catching old production tricks. Not every unexpected moment was a mistake, though. In the mustache episode, Lucy dressed as a man to sneak into a club. While trying to escape, her fake mustache fell off. She and Ethel broke into sudden real laughter. It was not planned. It was not in the script, but the joy on their faces felt so genuine that the producers kept the take. Their friendship and timing came through naturally, and that moment became one of the most loved bloopers in the entire show. Small changes slipped through the writing, too. Ethel's middle name changed more than once. Roberta in one episode, Louise in another, and May somewhere else. Even the apartment number jumped from 3B to 3D after the baby arrived, and Desi Arnaz's name appeared as Desi Aries in the closing credits for an entire season. These odd details turned into fun trivia over time. Early sitcoms worked fast, and anything that did not break the story often stayed in by accident. But the biggest shake of all arrived in September 1953 when gossip columnist Walter Winchell announced on his radio show that Lucille Ball was a communist. He said it just hours before filming in front of a live audience. Panic hit the studio instantly. Sponsors feared the worst. CBS feared the worst. America was deep in the Red Scare, and accusations like that ruined people overnight. Lucy worried not only for her job but for her family. It felt like the world she built was about to crash. The truth behind it stretched back to 1936 when she was 25. Lucy had registered to vote as a communist in California because her grandfather Fred Hunt, a devoted socialist, wanted it. Her mother and brother registered too. Lucy never voted communist and her registration ended after 2 years, but the FBI found her affidavit in 1952. They also found her name listed as a delegate of the California State Central Committee of the Communist Party. Whether she ever took that role seriously or not no longer mattered. Those papers existed. Once exposed, they became fuel for fear. Lucy had already testified privately before WHAC in April 1952 and again on September 4, 1953. She told them she registered only to make her grandfather happy. She insisted she had no ties to the party, no interest in it, no plans to follow it. WHAC accepted her explanation. They cleared her, but once the story leaked, the damage happened anyway. People whispered, headlines grew louder, and the anxiety followed her everywhere. J. Edgar Hoover himself reviewed her file. He read her testimony and the old registration documents. She told investigators plainly that she was not a communist and never had been. Hoover allowed the committee to clear her, but kept her file open, something he often did with Hollywood figures. It showed how tense the era was and how much attention fell on entertainers who shaped public opinion. When the scandal threatened to drown the show, Desi Arnaz stepped forward. He gathered the press, the network, and the sponsors. He stood in his home and defended his wife with a line that would echo for decades. He said the only thing read about Lucy was her hair, and even that was not real. He called Hoover. Hoover confirmed Lucy was in the clear. Desi shared that news with everyone and then walked Lucy in front of the live audience. The crowd rose to their feet. The applause washed over her like a rescue. In that moment, the crisis ended. The show survived. Lucy's career stayed alive. And television held on to one of its biggest stars because someone who loved her refused to let fear win. Vivian Vance felt something sink in her stomach the day she learned she would be paired with William Frawley on I Love Lucy in 1951. She was 42. He was 64. The age gap bothered her from the start, and she didn't hide it well. She joked to producers that she was being married off to that old coot, and behind his back she called him an old poop. Frawley heard the whispers and he snapped right back. He called her old fat ass and said it so often that it became part of the daily rhythm on set. Their insults came like clockwork. Yet when the camera light turned red, they slipped into Ethel and Fred as if nothing was wrong. Between takes, silence. No eye contact, no small talk, just cold space stretching between them while the crew pretended not to notice. Years later, Greg Oppenheimer explained how angry Vance was about the age gap and how much she hated the idea of audiences thinking she belonged with him. She even mocked Fred as "Oh Fat Freddy" during episodes. Every jab deepened a wound that never healed across the show's 7-year run. Even when I Love Lucy ended in the late 1950s, the bitterness did not fade. Producers talked about a spin-off built around Fred and Ethel. Frawley lit up at the idea. It felt like a way to keep his career alive, but Vance shut it down the moment she heard it. She said she would rather retire than work alone with Bill Frawley. She also believed the Mertzes only worked because Lucy and Desi stood between them. Without that, she thought the show would collapse. Her refusal killed the project in seconds. She even turned down a bonus check just to avoid standing beside him again. In 1975, when someone asked her about it on the Dinah Shore Show, she smiled and said she had no regrets. The worst moment came early in the show's life. Broly overheard Vance complaining to producers about their age difference sometime in 1952. She had said the audience would never buy her as the wife of that old man. The words hit him harder than she knew. He had spent decades in vaudeville and expected respect, not humiliation. After that day, he stopped giving her any benefit of the doubt. His insults became sharper and more personal, and the atmosphere on set grew colder. People whispered about the fight for years. Frawley certainly never forgot it. His drinking made everything worse. Desi Arnaz had to write strict rules into Frawley's contract, stating he would be fired if he showed up drunk. Even with that warning hanging over him, he still drank often. His hands shook so badly during scenes that he kept them in his pockets on camera. Crew members complained about his mood swings and his sudden bursts of anger. Era even hired someone to fetch him from Nicodel, a place he visited too often. The whole set felt the weight of his addiction. Yet he always managed to deliver once the camera rolled. And Arnaz kept him around because he was that good and because he had a soft spot for him. When Frawley died of a heart attack on March 3, 1966, the news traveled fast. Vivian Vance was having dinner with friends when she heard. Instead of pausing in sadness, she lifted her glass and said, "Champagne for everyone." People at the table stared at her, unsure what to say. Reporters came calling, but she refused to speak about him and stayed away from any memorial events. She kept that silence for years. Crew members and even members of Frawley's family confirmed her refusal. It stunned fans who had watched the two of them love and bicker on screen for 7 seasons. Vance had delivered her final statement without a word of affection. At the same time, another storm swirled around Desi Arnaz. In the years when I Love Lucy ruled television from 1951 to 1957, Scott Bowers claimed he arranged 2 or 3 women each week for Desi. Bowers began as a gas station attendant and ended up as one of Hollywood's secret fixers. According to his 2012 memoir, Desi liked any nice-looking girl who was a quick lay, and most of the women did not know who he was. The pace barely slowed even as Lucy's fame exploded. Journalists and biographers later supported parts of Bowers's story, giving weight to the claims. Lucille Ball eventually confronted Bowers at a party in the mid-1950s. She walked right up to him and shouted, "How dare you pimp for Desi in front of everyone?" Rumors had been building for years, and this moment felt like a burst of pressure finally escaping. Bowers said he was embarrassed, but he kept insisting he only fulfilled requests. Writers investigating Hollywood's underworld later confirmed the confrontation and called it one of the rare times Lucy acknowledged the infidelity out loud. Then came the January 1955 issue of Confidential magazine with its headline, "Does DIY Really Love Lucy?" The story claimed he used Vice dollies and described an incident at the Beverly Hills Hotel where a friend ordered 2 cuties, medium rare. Confidential had more than 5 million readers at its height, so the scandal spread everywhere. The magazine faced lawsuits for all kinds of celebrity exposes, but the damage to Desi's reputation stuck. People talked about the article for years. In 1977, Desi finally spoke for himself in his memoir, A Book. He wrote that he and Lucy were both unfaithful. He admitted their love life fell apart as the arguments increased and that they both looked elsewhere for comfort. He said he had not slept in their master bedroom for nearly a year by the late 1950s. His honesty surprised people because stars from that era rarely revealed such painful truths. Biographers often point to the memoir as the clearest window into the collapse of their marriage. Their daughter, Lucy Arnaz, later described her father's affairs as a very unique, weird problem. She said he loved Lucy and the family deeply, but could not stop chasing other women. Lucy understood the cycle, but eventually could not live with it anymore. Their divorce in 1960 ended years of fighting. Lucy recalled that life improved afterward because the tension finally stopped. Her reflections showed how deeply the infidelity shaped the family's emotional world. Behind all this drama, Lucy and Desi kept making groundbreaking decisions. In 1951, they agreed to cut their weekly salaries from $5,000 to $4,000 so they could shoot I Love Lucy on film instead of doing live broadcasts. CBS refused to pay for filming. So Lucy and Desi offered to take the cut only if they kept ownership of all filmed episodes. That gave them 80% ownership. By 1953, their salary dropped to around $2,000 per episode. But the gamble worked. The show became a national hit, and owning the episodes made them more than stars. It made them pioneers. In 1960, they sold the syndication rights back to CBS for $4.5 million, which is about $40 million today. Their company, Desilu Productions, kept growing into a major force. They shot everything on 35mm film, which was expensive but perfect for reruns. They helped launch The Untouchables in 1959 and The Andy Griffith Show in 1960. When Desi left Desilu in 1962, Lucy bought his shares for $3 million and became the first woman to run a major TV studio. Under her leadership, Desilu greenlit Star Trek in 1966 and Mission Impossible in the same year. Both shows later turned into billion-dollar giants. I Love Lucy still refuses to fade. More than 70 years after its debut, millions stream it every year. Around 40 million viewers in the United States alone watch reruns annually. When CBS aired a colorized Christmas special in 2013, more than 6 million people tuned in. During its original run, nearly half of all TV households watched the show. In 1953, the pregnancy episode reached 44 million viewers, about 72% of TV homes. The show has been translated into dozens of languages and broadcast in more than 100 countries. Across 6 seasons from October 15, 1951 to May 6, 1957, the show produced 179 episodes. It won 5 Emmys and shaped the future of television by proving how powerful filmed sitcoms and reruns could be. The model they created still makes studios money decades later. The show's reach stretched worldwide, and it continues to attract new fans every year. Lucille's legacy grew even more when she sold Diesel's Salute to Paramount in 1967 for $17 million, about $156 million in today's money. She had spent years running the studio, launching shows, and setting standards for the industry. Her decisions on production, ownership, and syndication helped shape television as we know it. People still see her as one of the most influential figures in entertainment history, and the shows she fought for continue to echo through every corner of the industry.